All right, hopefully everyone can hear me. Welcome to the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle webinar. My name is Natalie Gass. I'm the Sustainability Program Coordinator for the City of Dunedin. And today we will be talking about the state of recycling and how to be a better environmentalist. So today we will have a recording of this webinar, and that will be posted on the dunedingov.com/greenscene page, where you'll be able to click on all the links and get the information. And I'm very excited to be here with all of you today virtually. So we're going to get started, but a few housekeeping items is to make sure you keep your audio and visual on mute during the presentation, making sure the icons in the bottom left corner of your screen have a red dash through them, and then use the chat box to ask questions directly to me, and I will answer them at the end of the webinar. So today we will be talking about the 3 R's of sustainability: reduce, reuse, and recycle. I wish we had time to go through the 7 R's of sustainability, but that might be a different webinar. Now, throughout the presentation, you're going to find these blue links, and once I post this on the Greenscene page, you'll be able to go through and click on all these links to get more information. But for today, we're just going to be talking about the main 3: reduce, reuse, recycle, and getting an understanding that there's a hierarchy here, that we should first be reducing, then reusing, and lastly recycling. We are going to start by talking about recycling and then work our way up to reuse and reduce and get an understanding of how to be a better environmentalist by doing so. So just a little background on the state of recycling is that municipal recycling has steadily been growing since the 60s. And with this, the graph from the Environmental Protection Agency in the bottom part of the page, you can see the blue line is showing the amount of waste, and the orange line is showing the amount of recycling. So you can see that both have steadily been growing. There was actually a huge jump in the 90s is when our garbage and recycling really started to uptake. And then in the bottom left corner, you can see a 2013 pie chart kind of breaking down the different sectors of recycling. We had a lot of paper recycling then, some different other programs, and food, yard trimmings, and wood programs in the United States that were outside of the blue bin. Now, in 2018, China enacted its national sewer policy, which stated that contamination rates must be 0.5% or lower for them to accept the material into their country. This was virtually, and still is pretty much, impossible with the programs happening now, and so it kind of halted the recycling industry, with people not really knowing where to sell their materials to. And because of that, we saw a very big decrease in the amount of market value for a lot of these commodities. In the bottom right corner, you can see that this graph is showing, for example, the mixed paper really went down in value. And so a lot of programs that were making money off of recycling ended up losing money and having to pay for their materials to go somewhere. But what has been happening since then? A lot of the domestic markets have been shifting and slowly growing. We're seeing a lot of more collaboration between the public sector, the private sector, and nonprofits, which is really wonderful to see that partnership coming into play. Now, some recycling programs have had to either end, or maybe they're changing it up a little bit and not accepting certain materials. But other programs are actually revamping, and they're doing this with more education, mainly focusing on contamination and encouraging zero waste, as well as reducing overall waste streams. Now, this just takes time for the market to kind of rebuild itself. So while recycling may not be at its best state right now, I think over time it will slowly grow and become stronger throughout the process. So here in Dunedin, we have a mixed recycling program where all of the acceptable materials go into your bin together, whether you're putting that in your curbside bin that goes to the curb each week, or if you're taking it to one of our 2 drop-off locations. Now, both of these have other amenities such as free mulch, cooking oil receptacles, and both have a clothing and shoe drop box, which I will discuss later in the presentation. But where does all of our recycling go? Our recycling is taken down to Sarasota, Florida, where it is sorted at a materials recovery facility, or a MRF. And then from there, it's sorted, baled, and sold into market. Now, almost all of the commodities or materials coming from this plant are sold into domestic markets, mainly in Georgia and Alabama, to completely be recycled and turned into something new, which is really great to see that we have a regional program. And I've also linked in the bottom left a video that you can watch later on this process and how things go through the sorting plant. But what to recycle? So here's Dunedin's Guide to Recycling. On the left-hand side, you can kind of see that it's just your basic items: aluminum, tin, and steel cans, your paper, cardboard, newspaper, mail, office paper, glass bottles and jars, food and beverage cartons, and then the plastic bottles and jugs and containers. The key thing here is to make sure that these items are clean and they don't have food residue when you put them into the recycling bin. Now, if some items are too difficult to clean out, such as a peanut butter jar, where you're going to actually use more resources of water just trying to wash it out, in that case, put it in the garbage. Same thing with a pizza box. It's going to have a lot of grease on it. Just put that in the garbage as well. On the right-hand side is our contamination list, and there's a lot of contaminants that we find in our recycling bins, but the main issues are on the right-hand side with the tanglers, paper towels, paper plates, plastic bags and film, yard debris, and then any type of styrofoam. Now, instead of wish cycling, which is the idea that you're hoping something's recyclable, and so you throw it in there hoping that, somewhere down the line it will be picked out and recycled in some manner, that actually can harm the whole process. And so when in doubt, throw it out. These are 2 pictures from the Pinellas County Recycling Guide, kind of showing the different items that they see throughout the county, the county's and the city's programs, and they're educating on to make sure those are not placed into the recycling bin. A big issue in the recycling bin would be any type of tanglers. Tanglers mean wires, clothing hangers, toys, yard debris, electronics, appliances, plastic bags. All of those different things can become entangled in the machinery and cause a lot of damage. Now, it can cause harm to it can be really dangerous for the workers to go in and pick this all out. It also just really slows down operations. It causes issues with the machinery, and it just reduces the overall quality of the recycling. So very important to make sure we're not putting any tanglers in the recycling bin, especially plastic bags, and that you're never bagging your recyclables. Now, in the top right corner, you could see one of these plastic bags that are labeled recyclable. Now, sometimes you can find these in your local grocery stores, and we are working with local grocers to try to get those off the shelf, as we don't accept those in our program, and it can be very confusing for our residents to have that as an option, and then we're telling everyone not to put them in. So on this slide, you can see the left picture is showing a contaminated recycling machine, and on the right-hand side is the tangler-free recycling, just showing the huge importance of what you're putting in your bin and how it affects the operations of the recycling process. Another big thing right now would be making sure that any type of personal protective equipment or medical equipment is not going in the recycling bins and it's not being littered. These are some pictures in different areas of masks in the water and some masks in the recycling bin, but making sure none of this is placed in the recycling bin and it is properly disposed of. Yard debris is another contaminant that is commonly found in the bins. These are some pictures from Dunedin residents showcasing maybe some of the confusion that's still out there. We cannot accept any yard debris, wood, or miscellaneous items in our bins, such as cushions, fish tanks, brooms, and anything like that. This is a contamination map. So when you go back and you look here, you can see the green tags. Now, if there's contamination coming out of the bin and the recycling crew sees it, they're going to tag that bin and make sure it doesn't get picked up until you take the contamination out. In this map, all of these blue dots represent locations where contamination has been found. So we're still seeing that Dunedin does need more education on this, and the reason why we're putting this webinar on today, as well as just trying to inform people of how to recycle correctly. Now, when you look at the top of your recycling bin, if you have one at home, there should be a recycling guide sticker decal. If it's kind of getting old and worn down, like the picture on the left-hand side, you can always call us up and we would be happy to replace it with an updated one on the right-hand side. Or on the bottom here, I've linked a printable guide where you can actually print that out and put it on your fridge for easy viewing. A few quick recycling tips just to help you out in the process is number one, just to keep it simple, focus on the basic items, making sure that they're clean and focusing on recycling those. Number two would be nothing smaller than your fist. This would be shredded paper, K-cups, small yogurt cups, or caps when they're by themselves. If you have a cap or a lid, make sure you're either twisting that on tight or removing it completely. Now we know we don't all have the same fist size, so maybe think of like the size of a hockey puck. Anything smaller than that shouldn't really be going in the recycling bin, and that's because one, all of these items can get wedged in the machinery, and two, they can contaminate the glass loads during the sorting process. Tip number three would be to not rely on the recycling symbol. Just because a recycling symbol is on something doesn't necessarily mean it can be accepted in our program. And that's because there's just not enough regulation around the recycling symbol. On the left-hand side, you can see all of those different symbols, and sometimes they can mean different things. They could mean that something was made out of recyclable material or it's recyclable in a specific program. Here are just a few ideas and pictures of what cannot go in the bin but has a recycling symbol, such as packing pillows, plastic bags, styrofoam, and toys. Batteries are another big issue, and the county is really doing a push to educate their residents on this, that batteries or electronics should never go in the recycling or the garbage. When they are placed in the trucks and the truck compacts the material, it can actually ignite and cause a fire, which causes a lot of safety issues with the workers and a lot of damage to the trucks if that does occur. So where to take those electronics? Pinellas County has a program where they take electronics and chemicals. They do once a month mobile collections, and they also have a site in St. Petersburg for drop-off. Currently, all of those are still closed, and you can check with the county to see when they'll be opening back up. But it is a great program. They accept all these different materials, and there's no cost for residents. And just a few of our other recycling programs that I mentioned before that are at our recycling drop-off sites is that both sites have a clothing and textile drop box. Now, during normal times, I suggest to either try to donate it, give it away, do a yard sale or a clothing swap before putting it in the recycling bin. The textile recycling bin is then taken to Suncoast Recycling in Clearwater, where that's all converted and made into something new. And then at our Lake Haven site, we have a cooking oil drop-off, and just really making sure that you're not dumping grease, oil, or fats down your drain. That's not great for your drains or for city drains. So we do have that receptacle for you to properly dispose of that. And now that we have flown through recycling, just want to make sure we're doing good on time. Let's go on to reuse. Reuse and upcycle is a really fun one. And the basic principle of this is just ask yourself, how can I reuse this item before placing it in the garbage or the recycling bin? Now, all of these items could have gone in the recycling bin, but they've been given a new life in a different form, either cleaning, storage, decorating. I love the one on the right-hand side. As everyone's talking about toilet paper right now, you can turn these toilet paper rolls into little animal crafts with your kids or grandkids, just another fun activity to do at home. If you're looking more to venture into your garden or your kitchen, I have 2 links on how to regrow your food from food scraps, which is really fun, and you can actually just do it right on your windowsill. And then another one of how to take your vegetable scraps and make vegetable broth from it. Again, keeping you healthy during this time. Now, it's really important that you are focusing on reducing food waste, as according to Drawdown, it's a project focusing on climate change, and they said it's the 3rd most important action we can all take in fighting climate change is to reduce our food waste. So a great way to help everyone out is to do that. And a few more items to look at. I love these ideas. There's the one on the bottom left of the ladder being turned into a bookshelf, the cheese grater as an earring holder. They even have a tub as a living room couch and just some other planting options. In the top right, I linked a website where you can look at all of the different ways that you can reuse everyday items. It's a super cool link. I encourage everyone to check it out after the presentation. And really the key idea here is that reusing is directly tied to reducing. And the more you reuse, the more you can reduce the amount of materials you place in your garbage and your recycling, which is the goal. Sometimes I hear people say, oh, I fill up my recycling bin all the way to the top every single week. To those people, I say, try to start thinking about how to reduce that amount of material you're going through, and reuse and reduce is a really good way to start doing that. Reuse your reusables. So a lot of people are talking about zero waste and reusables right now, and I don't want anyone to feel the need that they have to go out and buy new reusable items. Just really use what you have, and that's the more sustainable option to do so. You're also going to save a lot of money by just making your own kits. Now, the one on the left-hand side is, you can buy that, but they do tend to get pretty expensive. And so if you look to the right, you can do it yourself and make your own kit out of just the stuff you have, some old jars laying around, a cloth napkin, some Tupperware, a fork, spoon, knife, and a reusable water bottle. This is for if you're out and about and maybe you get food and you can't eat all of it. Instead of taking that styrofoam to-go box, you can package it all up in your own materials and bring it home with you. Just a great way to reduce waste while you're out and about. And reuse really pushes us into the reduce idea. This is so important because as humans, we do create a lot of garbage. On average, Americans are producing between 4 to 5.9 pounds of garbage per day. But in Pinellas County, residents are actually producing over double that amount of garbage per day, which is pretty shocking. And in the top right corner is a link to the Pinellas County Solid Waste 30-year master plan, where they are talking about how they really want to focus on going zero waste. And you can learn more about their program, as well as some of the stats like this when you click on the link. But this is pretty staggering. And in the bottom right corner, you can see this picture at the tipping floor of the Pinellas County Waste to Energy facility. Now, just as a side note, all of the garbage that goes here is burned. When it's burned, it is reduced to ash, which reduces the amount of space for a landfill by 90%. And then by burning the garbage, they're also producing enough electricity to run their operations daily, as well as 45,000 homes in the area. So it is a good program, but just really staggering to see the amount of garbage coming in. Now, when you look at this pile of garbage, it's actually just the tip of the iceberg. This pile goes down 30 feet into the ground, and from here they take the claw and they bring it into the burning plant. And all of this, the tip of the iceberg, along with the 30 feet below of garbage, is just 3 days worth of garbage here in Pinellas County. So really a eye-opening way to see how much garbage we're producing and why recycling isn't going to be the only way that we can fix our waste issue. Now, this is another good way to look at why recycling is not our only way to fix this issue, is to look at plastic beverage containers. So just think in your mind, how many plastic beverage containers do we use in the United States every 5 minutes? Just take a few seconds to think about what that number could be. So we actually use 2 million plastic beverage containers every 5 minutes just in the United States. And this is a really big number and difficult to grasp, but luckily an American artist, Chris Jordan, portrays this in his series called Running the Numbers. And so we're going to take a look at that. We've zoomed in here, and we're going to zoom out to see what 5 minutes worth is like. And that's 5 minutes. Really crazy to see that amount of material being used just in the United States in just 5 minutes. Now, for starters, I know that all of these are not being recycled. Some people don't put them in the recycling bin. Sometimes they're littered. But if every single bottle was recycled, one, it can only be recycled a few times before the quality would become too poor and it would have to go into the garbage. And the other thing is that a lot of these materials, such as plastic beverage bottles, are not made into new plastic beverage bottles. They're actually made into different products such as clothing, carpet, and other materials that also have a hard time being recycled as well. So to really look at this, you have the linear economy situation where you take resources, you use them, and then you throw them away. The recycling economy where you take resources, you recycle them a few times, but eventually a lot of them will have to go into the garbage. And then the circular economy is what we're all trying to push for, and that we're reusing and reducing the amount of waste so we have less garbage. And this is super important because everything we do has a great impact on our planet and all the wildlife here. For example, sea turtles. Sea turtles' favorite snack would be jellyfish. Now, when they come across a plastic bag in the ocean, it can be pretty difficult for them to tell the difference between a plastic bag and a jellyfish. And so it's super important for us to understand that and understand the impact that all of our waste has on the planet. These are some images from around the world and just showing that all of our waste is having this huge impact, that a lot of our waterways and our land is being polluted. A lot of animals and wildlife are being entangled in plastic and waste, and they are also consuming it. On the bottom right corner, you can see a picture of a dish, and all of those materials came out of the stomach of a sea turtle. So it just really is eye-opening here to get an understanding of everything that's happening. And every action we take does count. Some people might say, oh, it's only one straw, it's just one disposable cup, it's just one plastic bag. But there's 8 billion people, there's 8 billion of us, and when we're doing this maybe once a day or more, it really, really adds up. So how did we get here? How did we get to this throwaway culture? And it really kind of started in the 50s. This is a real ad from a 1955 magazine saying that disposable items cut down on household chores, but really they cause a global chore for all of us to clean up this mess. And how did humans live before this throwaway culture began? Well, we reused. We put value in our materials and we reused glasses, forks, and other materials over and over and over again. You might be thinking, well, I use paper plates because they're easy and then I can save water by not having to wash them. But just one paper plate actually takes 8 gallons of water to make, whereas a modern dishwasher only uses between 3 to 5 gallons of water for an entire load of dishes. And this is another great quote. I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but it kind of summarizes the throwaway culture. It says, "It's pretty amazing that our society has reached a point where the effort necessary to extract oil from the ground, ship it to a refinery, turn it into plastic, shape it appropriately, truck it to a store, buy it, and bring it home is considered to be less effort than what it takes to just wash the spoon when you're done with it." And a few ideas of, reducing the amount of waste and trying to stay away from the throwaway culture is to, one, look at your food waste, that making a meal plan, only buying what you need is going to save on food waste, but also packaging waste. A few ideas here, and making sure you're composting what's left, reducing your plastic use and the reasons why you should do that. Going back to bringing your own bag, bringing your own utensils, saying no to straws, things like that, saying no to over packaging. And this is shopping smart, making sure that you are trying to avoid over packaged items such as this piece of broccoli or other fruits. And when you do find loose items, instead of going for that plastic produce bag, maybe bring your own or reuse that plastic bag over and over and over again. And then just a few more ideas is that when you are in the kitchen, it's a great way to figure out how to reduce your waste, because a lot of the waste is going to be coming from your kitchen. So making sure that you are making a meal plan, you're using those reusables, trying to shop in bulk or from local markets when possible. And 2 links here to our Green Scene page. One is 50 ways to reduce kitchen waste, 55 ways to reduce kitchen waste, and then in the top right, 50 ways to live more sustainably, which kind of looks at outside the kitchen as well. An idea for a future project would be to do a home waste audit. I want to say to hold off on this project, and due to health concerns around COVID-19, I would really highly suggest to wait to do any type of home waste audit until it is safe to do so. So I don't want anyone digging through the garbage right now, but when it is safe and in the future, to put on personal protective equipment, save your garbage for a week, and then kind of sort it out and go through it and figure out what are you producing on the week-to-week basis, and what are some areas that you can reduce the amount of waste that you're producing. So here you see a lot of plastic water bottles that could be reduced by getting a water filter and using tap water, as well as a reusable water bottle. A lot of these jars could be reused for something, and then you see some food waste here that could actually be composted. And just want to do a quick plug for the next webinar that we'll be having is actually on backyard composting in the city. That's happening June 11th, and a link to register will be included in this presentation as well. So going back to this, we might not all be doing a at-home waste audit right now or something like that, but just a few simple swaps to really reduce the amount of waste and resources would be to swap paper napkins and paper towels for cloth napkins. You're reducing the amount of forest that has to be cut down, and you're reducing your waste. Same thing for plastic water bottles and beverage bottles. Instead of all of that oil having to be drilled and then all of that waste being produced, using a reusable container. And again, with the plastic bags and plastic produce bags. The reason to do this is to keep our home delightful, to keep Dunedin delightful, and to keep our globe running sustainably. So making sure, you can make those small swaps, and start talking about it with your friends, neighbors, family, and really sharing the information of how to reduce, reuse, and then lastly, recycle correctly. And I've also included some of the some resources here for everyone to go back and look over. Pinellas County did a STEAM edition where they kind of go through zero waste and they take you through some activities. Really great article to look at. And then checking out our dunedingov.com/greenscene page where you can find more, such as reducing your kitchen waste, or our recycling page if you're kind of wanting to do more of a deep dive on recycling. And then all of those links and resources that I've put throughout the presentation are now in these 2 slides, so you don't have to root through all of those slides. And I'm just so thankful to be here with everyone today and happy to look at maybe some of the questions that we've received in the chat box. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. I'll wait a few moments to see if anyone wants to type anything in. And again, you can always contact me by email or phone, and you can always go on our Green Scene page if you want to learn more information. And just really excited that we are still talking about all of these things amidst a lot of our programs having to be canceled. And so thank you for joining us virtually. Oh, we have one question here. Let's see. It says City of Clearwater is now offering composting bins to residents. Do we have something like this planned? Yes, we are looking into this and seeing what options are available. I was actually speaking with Sheridan and Clearwater and kind of getting more information about their program, as well as St. Petersburg's composting program, and seeing what we could do here in Dunedin. All right, well, I don't see any more questions. Thank you all for being here today. Really appreciated everyone's time, and hopefully we'll see you in another webinar.